Perhaps you've heard of the urban legend sometimes known as the dead body under the bed. The legend tells of a vacationing couple that checks into a seedy roadside motel only to discover a foul smell in their room. Come night, they find the smell to be so odorous that they're unable to sleep and decide to call a member of staff to complain. This staff member then discovers that the smell is in fact coming from the bed and looks under the frame to find the couple had been sleeping on top of the rotting body of a young girl that had been stuffed into the box. It's definitely one of the lesser-known urban legends, but it's one made all the more terrifying by the fact that it's actually a true story. Not only that, but there have been multiple occurrences of people sleeping in rooms where dead bodies have been concealed. And two of those unfortunate souls were James and Rhonda Sargent. The couple had been on the road for hours before they checked into room 222 of the Budget Lodge Inn on Brooks Road in Memphis, Tennessee. That evening, the couple said they complained to the motel staff that the room was stanky and foul. They burned some incense they picked up from a nearby hippie hole, but it seemed like nothing could cover the revolting odor. Though it seemed that someone had apparently tried before, because the sergeants noticed there were fabric softener sheets stuffed into ceiling tiles and nooks, and the smell was strongest whenever anyone sat on the bed. It was perhaps the worst night's sleep of their entire lives, and in the morning, the couple left the motel, determined to never darken its doors again. Sometime later, the smell had attracted some negative attention that the motel owners finally decided to call the police. More than one guest had commented that it smells like a dead body in there, in room 222, and they weren't wrong. Homicide detectives instantly recognized the smell as belonging to a corpse, and after turning the room upside down, located the moldering cadaver of 28-year-old mother of four, Sony Millbrook. Throughout the course of the police investigation that followed, it was discovered that Sony had checked into the Budget Inn sometime in January of 2010. She was staying with her boyfriend and father of four of her children, Lakeith Moody, and the room was in his name. Millbrook had been there for a couple of weeks when one day in late January, she did not pick up her kids from daycare. Her sister, Linda James, reported her missing. Police believe she died the day she vanished, but were told by motel workers that they had bagged up Millbrook's personal belongings and cleaned the room. Other workers said nothing appeared amiss and the room was rented out. If Sony had indeed been a victim of foul play, it certainly hadn't been the Budget Inn, or at least so it seemed. After Sony's body was found, Lakeith Moody was stopped while driving Millbrook's car and was arrested on federal charges of being a felon in possession of a gun. They took until his trial in 2014 for him to be convicted of murdering the mother of his child, and he was automatically given a life sentence in accordance with state law. I'm just a shock because I'm like, okay, I done laid on top of this lady's body, said Rhonda Sargent, who stayed in the room after Millbrook disappeared, before her body was found. This is somebody's daughter, someone's mom. Why didn't they investigate this fully? I think I would have searched all over, her husband James added. I think I would have known to look up under the bed. Yet he didn't, and neither did the police. It was already clear. Talk about ruining a crime scene, Memphis Police Director Larry Godwin said in March. It had also been rented several times with next to no complaints. It was like, well, we don't have any evidence here. The officers wanted to solve it, and so they went in a different direction. Whether or not there was misfortune, or simply incompetence on the part of investigating police, it's impossible to judge. But what things remain clear, that an alarming number of people have actually slept on beds under which a body had been concealed. So next time you're on the road, and you stop to spend the night at a roadside rest stop, make sure there's nothing masking any particular nasty smells. And as always check under the bed, as apparently you know really well when you'll be sleeping with an unexpected roommate. You just sat down on the old porcelain throne, and you're settling in to relieve yourself. A kind of serenity comes over you, as a time of privacy, of solace and seclusion. The more uncouth among us might even describe the feeling of voiding their bowels as blissful. And as disgustingly satisfying as a good dump might be, sitting on the toilet with our pants around our ankles is without a doubt one of the most vulnerable positions in which a person could possibly find themselves. And for some, that vulnerability might have become frighteningly apparent to us at some point. It seems impossible, sure, but what if something could swim up the sewage pipes, slowly snaking or scuttling through the filthy toilet water, only to surface right when we're at our most exposed? Perhaps a rat, wiggling its fleshly pink tail, surfacing with a squeak and then launching itself teeth first at our backsides. Or a snake, winding its way up the pipes before sinking its fangs into you-know-what. Maybe even an alligator, floating in the toilet, just waiting for us to come along and lift the lid so it can rip off an appendage or two. Most of us had a similar kind of irrational thought whilst sitting on the toilet. But rats, snakes, or gators can't really swim up our bathroom pipes, right? I mean, that's got to be just an urban legend. Well, I hate to break it to you, friends, but it's true. And rats have been crawling up sewer pipes and into people's toilets with horrifying frequency, and just for about as long as sewage systems have existed. Magnolia is the second largest neighborhood of Seattle, occupying a hilly peninsula northwest of the downtown area. It was named by Captain George Davidson of the U.S. Coast Survey in 1856, who reportedly mistook the plentiful madrona trees for magnolias, and given the early date of its founding, some sections of Magnolia have a very archaic sewer system. Although made of much heavier metals, some might argue that the older sewage pipes are just as strong as the modern polymer variety. The only problem is that they're quite a bit different. And being larger has its drawbacks, as one unfortunate resident discovered to their abject horror. One evening, they obviously approached their toilet intending on relieving themselves before bed. But when they lifted the lid, the sight that greeted them made their blood run cold. Staring back at them, with cold, beady eyes and gnashing yellow teeth, was a huge, soaking wet sewer rat. The scream it must have elicited from the unsuspecting homeowner must have been enough to wake the dead, as the squealing beast leapt from the toilet bowl in an attempt to escape it. The rat seemed to couple its escape with a lunging attack, and was successful in making the homeowner back off enough for it to be able to make a clean break from the bathroom. The homeowner was left stunned and horrified, weeping on the bathroom floor in the aftermath of such a terrible surprise. "I now feel utterly unsafe in my own home," the homeowner said, in a letter to the King County Public Health Department. Local media outlets reached out to a man named Don Pace, a rodent control specialist for King County's Public Health Department. "It's a life-changing experience if it happens to you," he said, admitting that the incidents are much more common than we're led to believe. It does freak you out because you're not expecting it. In King County alone, there have been over 400 reported incidents of sewer rats simply materializing in people's toilets over the past 10 years or so, with Pace saying that his department deals with between 50 to 80 toilet rat scenarios a year. Notorious as spreaders of the infamous Black Death, rats are one of the most reviled and ubiquitous urban wildlife nuisances. And it certainly doesn't do their reputations any good when they invade the privacy of people's bathrooms. Pace has been helping people vanquish toilet rats for more than 20 years in King County, and the occurrences of toilet rats are now so regular in certain parts of the northwestern United States that Don has set up a webpage to help people deal with the problem. We try to tell people not to panic. All you have to do is close the lid and flush. The rat will try to swim back down or get tired and drown, Pace said. It might take more than one flush to exile the furry intruders. Typically, Norway rats are about 6 to 8 inches long, 12 inches if you include their tails. So they don't go down easy, let me tell you. Sometimes I feel like a superhero because everyone's so happy when they see me, he said. Usually, he continued, the story goes something like this. A person hears a splashing noise at 1:30 a.m. in the toilet. They look in to see a rat doing laps. Yet, within 5 minutes it disappeared. There's water everywhere and there's no sign of any obvious entry. It seems impossible, but it happens a lot, and there's very little we can do about it other than deal with the incidents as and when they arise. Some of the public complaints to the King County Public Health Department are available to read online. One stated that I have the unfortunate duty to report that I found a rat in my toilet bowl this evening, on July 1st, 2013. It is quite alive and unhappy to be where it is. I'll try using dish soap and flushing. If that doesn't work, I guess I'll look for heavy leather gloves and see if I can remove it that way. Wife heard scrabbling noises in toilet, another complaint read. Lifted lid and saw rat. She screamed. Flushed 3 times and rat disappeared. Then squirted dish soap down toilet and flushed twice more. Then poured bleach down kitchen sink, followed by boiling water. Don Pace has said he approves of the dish soap method mentioned above. The soap breaks the surface tension in the toilet bowl and makes it difficult for the rat to swim. But the measures don't stop there. If someone reports a toilet rat to the county, Pace will typically drop poison bait into a nearby manhole cover to address any other rats who might be considering invasion. It's probably best to avoid drawing rats in the first place, Don was quoted as saying. Rats are typically chasing food poured down the drain, but detour to porcelain because they can't access the sink. They come up where they find easiest access, the toilet bowl. Every house has a kitchen sink, so every house has an entry point for rats. It happens throughout Seattle, from the far south end all the way up to the north end. Don recommends cleaning your drains regularly, preferably using a cup of baking soda, a cup of vinegar, along with a healthy dose of boiling water. It's particularly important to do this in the summer and fall, since this is naturally when the rats will be most active. But that being said, incidents are still rare overall, and the more modern your drains are, the less likely occurrences of toilet rats actually are. So rest assured, people, the chances of actually finding a rat sitting in your toilet bowl are relatively low. But I'm sorry to say, it does occur. So maybe it's best we all start leaving our toilet lids down to keep the sewer rats out, But if you do, remember that every single time you lift the lid, you're rolling the dice on being ambushed by a huge, angry vermin.